Good evening. Welcome to the daily bulletin of the ongoing farmers' protest. Today is Thursday, 18th of February, 2021. Today, all over India, farmers' organizations have given a call for Rail Roko. And that program, that activity, that protest is happening even while I am on this bulletin. Now, I will share some photographs of that and some videos. But before that, the topic for today is what is the government's strategy? It's not easy to fathom, but there are some telltale signs. And I thought I want to, share those thoughts with you and tell you what I feel the government is now planning. First, the government is very disturbed by the determination of farmers to have the 3 black farm laws repealed, to have a law for MSP enacted, guarantee of MSP, both in terms of proper price, that is C2 plus 50%, as recommended by Swaminathan Commission, and to ensure an ecosystem where farmers can get that price. And there are other demands, like the ordinance for burning of straw, which imposes huge penalties on farmers and puts them in jail for years together, and the Electricity Bill 2020. Now, before I get into strategy of the government, let's see what the government has done till now. There are 2 things that come to my mind straight away. The government clubbed these 4 demands as 4 equal demands. The demand for repeal, the demand for a new MSP law, an MSP law. There is no MSP law at the moment. MSP is not a legal right. The straw burning ordinance and the withdrawal of the electricity bill. So the government said these are 4 demands. These are of equal weightage and value to the farmers. And in one of the meetings, the government said that we accept 2. We will not introduce the electricity amendment bill, and we will modify the straw burning ordinance. And the government came out with a statement that half the demands, 50% of what the farmers want, have been met. The government has agreed, accepted. Whereas, in reality, if the demands were given weightage, 90% would have been the first 2 demands, repeal of laws and new law for MSP. And 10% would have been the ordinance on straw burning and the electricity amendment bill. But the government did not carefully chose not to tread that narrative and wanted to create a headline that half the demands have been met. So the farmers now must come forward and close this agitation because the government has accepted half. Government has moved halfway forward. Farmers must now move halfway forward too, and there must be a meeting. So the first attempt of the government was to throw solution at the farmers by way of accepting the straw burning ordinance and the electricity amendment bill. These 2, I repeat, were peripheral demands of the farmers. Weightage-wise, about 10% of what the farmers are demanding. But the government projected it as 50% of the demand and therefore tried to tell the country that the farmers are now being unreasonable because half their demands have been met. The second attempt of the government was to throw back at the farmers and say, you have not told us what you don't like about the law. And therefore, what is it that you really want? You are not stating your position clearly. You have multiple leaderships. You have convoluted leadership. You have leadership that is speaking at cross purposes. So we don't know who to negotiate with. We don't know what you want in that negotiation. So again, the government was trying to create headlines and confuse the country by saying that the farmers don't even have a cogent demand. The farmers immediately reacted and said that we have very clear demands. These are the four demands. This is the position that we have on these four demands. And the government was reminded of the copious volumes of documents exchanged with the agriculture minister, with the prime minister himself. And the government lost the narrative there. Why I'm bringing up these old events is to try and use these to understand what the government's strategy now is. So it's clear that the government wants to manage headlines. The government wants to give a spin to the demand of the farmers. The government wants to project itself as reasonable and the farmers as unreasonable. And the government basically wants to say that the farmers are not united either in leadership or in demand, and therefore the government cannot negotiate. From this, the strategy of the government is clear. The government believes that it can discredit the farmers' movement, the leadership of the movement, and can progressively wear it out. That, I think, is the strategy. Remember, we are reaching almost 90 days of the protest. That's 3 months. It's a very long period. These 3 months have been cold winter months in Delhi. There have been inclement weather, rain, hailstorm. The farmers have weathered all of that. Now, spring is coming. It'll become hot soon in the northern plains of India. It'll be very hot, just as it was very cold. So the government is betting on the farmers not being able to live on the highways in this heat. So, besides the narrative spin and the headline management, the government is trying to wear down the farmers. That's one clear strategy of the government. The government is also on a witch hunt. A little bird tweeting anywhere in the world causes tremendous consternation for the government. The entire machinery is out finding non-state actors in foreign countries who have spoken in support of the farmers. And the government has reacted very negatively about these persons tweeting. The government has willy-nilly said that nobody in the world can speak about the farmers' protest because it is an internal matter of the government of India. Of course, it is an internal matter. Of course, the debate and dispute between the government and the farmers is a matter that has to be resolved in India by Indians. But to go to that length to say that nobody in the world has a right to comment on anything in India is ridiculous. And now we have the government also targeting very young climate activists who came out in support of the farmers' movement and using the might and strength of law against them. I mean, when I say young, I don't mean just that because they are young, the law doesn't apply to them. That's not my position. Everybody is subject to the law, and depending upon their age, the law has different provisions. The point I'm trying to make is that these young people who have views are not being allowed to express those views. The toolkit case has been made out to be one where very young people are being projected as terrorists. And what is worse, is that the ruling party, BJP's social media machine, is bringing in all kinds of very dirty narrative into this whole thing. For a few days, it was about the religion of the girl in question. The message was obvious that because she doesn't belong to the majority religion, she may be against the interest of India. Is the government trying to say that those who profess minority faith in India are all against the interest of India? From many of the tweets and many of the comments on my Twitter, it appeared that that's the story some of these people were trying to project. The government will, of course, say that these are all individual persons. They are not the government. They are not official spokesperson of the BJP, and therefore their comments should not be attributed to the government or the BJP. But the fact is, anybody who is active on social media in India knows that BJP's trolls are dealing from BJP for this very purpose, so that when it is convenient for the BJP, these trolls can be pushed and can be made useful to push the agenda of BJP. And when it is not convenient, BJP can distance itself. So up to now, the strategy seems to be discredit and demolish the farmers' movement. Treat the farmers as anti-national. Treat those who are supporting the farmers as anti-national. Now, in a country as large as India, if a majority of the people are painted and tainted as anti-national, I don't know how it serves the purpose of the government. If the government wants to try and divide the country into majority, minority, into BJP supporters, non-BJP supporters, and then tries to say that those who do not support the government, and by extension the BJP, are all against India, that doesn't make a very happy story. So, divide and demolish. Discredit and demolish. Use all kinds of abuses and names to dehumanize those who are protesting against these farm laws. This is not something that I'm proud to say, but I think the government of India is almost waging war against we, the people of India. I know the government has a purpose for doing what it's doing. I know that the government wants to firmly establish its will on the people. I know that the government is not able to deal with dissent and disagreement with the government. I know that the government is throwing the weight of law on the people, and whether or not the government is right in enacting these laws, the government wants the people of the country to accept these laws. These are clear. But what is not clear to me is how far does a democratically elected government want to go with this kind of mindset? Does a government elected by the people really believe that by going against the people, going against the wishes and will of majority of the people, it can remain in power? It can seek vote from these same people? This confuses and puzzles me. In the recent Punjab municipal election, though it's not a very major barometer of anything, it's after all a local election, but people who live in cities, in municipal areas, strongly came out against the government. I do not see the Punjab municipal elections as a great vote of support for the Congress party and its policies and its governance. I think it was more a vote against the BJP. And I'm sure those in the BJP who are in charge of understanding elections and strategizing elections have taken due note of this. If people in towns and cities of Punjab are voting against the BJP, then those who are not farmers, who do not live in villages, are supporting the farmers' movement. That is remarkable. Just as the climate activists who were supporting the farmers being put behind bars is also remarkable. Does the government really believe that a toolkit made on a Google form, a Google Drive, is seriously going to undermine the government? Can it even, by any stretch of imagination, be treated as sedition? I mean, the central government today, in many ways, is behaving worse than the colonial British government. So the strategy of the government is very clear that it will not give in to the farmers' demands and will continue to battle the farmers at any cost. Any cost is the key phrase here. I understand that not giving in to the demands of the farmers is the policy of the government to uphold the image of the Prime Minister as a strong man. If we pause on the word image, should the Prime Minister not start now thinking whether the cost of protecting that image is really far more than the cost of that image itself? Is the Prime Minister damaging his image more by trying to protect his image? These are important considerations for the government. But it is for the government to plan what it wants to do. What I can see and understand is that the government will not give in to the demands and will use every force available to it, fair or unfair, right or wrong, lawful or unlawful, and will push back the farmers' movement. And the farmers, as they see this behavior pattern from the government, are more determined than ever to continue the movement peacefully, determinedly, and to its conclusion. The more the government tries to instill fear into the farmers and those who support the farmers, the more fearless they will become. The more the repression, and I don't have to remind viewers about the barbed wire and the nail and the what was done at Ghazipur, concrete barricades, the more the government tries to force the farmers to agree, the greater will be the disagreement. And that is the important message that I wanted to give. The government today is pushing this problem, pushing this engagement into a deep valley of disagreement. And the greater the disagreement, the greater are the chances of not finding a solution. The government must be proactive in finding a solution. After all, Indian citizens are seeking a solution from their government. So I do hope that sense will prevail and the government will soon be back on the negotiating table and will act rationally rather than as a headline hunter. Some images from today's Rail Roko. These are, on the first instance, mostly from West Bengal. Bishnupur. No, this is not Bishnupur. This is, anyhow, this is from Darjeeling district. Bakura, then we move to Bihar. This is somewhere near Sitamarhi, I think. Then Bhubaneswar, Odisha. Alwar, Rajasthan. We are back to Belda in West Midnapur district of West Bengal. And back to Munger. I will share some videos with you of the rail roko. They are from Sonipat and Ajar.
सरकार ने तो यहाँ तक षड्यंत्र था, इस देश में या तो जवान है या किसान है। जवान किससे पैदा होते हैं? या तो मजदूर के घर में या किसान के घर में। जिन जवानों को भी आपके सामने लड़ने के लिए तैयार कर दिया, वो तो परमात्मा का आशीर्वाद है। हमारे जवान भी इस बात को समझ रहे हैं और हमारे किसान और मजदूर आम जनता भी इस बात को समझ रही है। हमारी लड़ाई इन जवानों से नहीं है, हमारी लड़ाई जो नीति बनाते हैं उन गद्दारों से है।
अजर का
जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद भेज दिया दुकान करके तार दिया बड़ा अरे तो कोई बात नहीं, तो क्यों हो आप आपस में वो चिल्ले साहब में करवाओ सभी, वो चिल्ले साहब हो गई राम की
Well, can we have the photograph off the screen, please? Well, that is the end of today's bulletin. I will join you again tomorrow with the next bulletin. Thank you very much for being with me. Good evening to one and all.